Hi, welcome to another video on space philosophy. I'm not quite sure what to call this video series. I was calling it Space Trek, but in fact it's really just me wandering about in space and talking. So I guess I do have a kind of a journey in mind. It's got a lot of jumps, and what we're going to do is we're going to hyperspace into our next system, and I'm going to tell you about this video, so keep listening. Let's get the... There's the drive charging. And so what this video is going to be about is we're going to talk about the reptile brain, the part of your brain that basically does all the basic functions, basically does the basics. And if you want to hear all about the reptile brain, keep listening. It seems very loud to me, this, but I think the balance is okay. I might just go and turn down some of the sounds, but anyway. So the reptile brain, let's talk about it. And I mean, it could equally be called the, this is us in a new system. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a jolt with the Discovery scanner and see if there's anything interesting in this system. And we've got 20 bodies, so we'll just have a look at the makeup of it. And we'll see. Let's just have a look at the system map. Anything interesting here that we could discover? Oh, there's space stations, all sorts of things. All this is discovered, so we're not really too interested. Let's move on to the next system. What we're looking for is some systems that are a little bit unoccupied, so that we can go around and discover some new planets, maybe a new terraforming planet, something like that. But in the meantime, the reptile brain. So your brain is... I'm just going to turn down my audio a little bit here. It's all very loud. I have 250 watt speakers as my audio speakers at the moment. They're a bit overkill, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Gravity well. What does it say? Why gravity well? Am I at a very, very large star? Let's have a look at the system map. I don't know what a gravity well is. This is a very, very large star, is it? Let's have a look at this planet. This star? Class M stars, red stars that form the bulk of the main sequence. Their mass is low. Well, it doesn't seem like a gravity well to me. Anyway, okay, so let's get out of there. See if we can head off to this place. Never been stuck in a gravity well before. That's a new one on me. It must be some update they've had in the game. So we'll try the FSD again. And let's see if we get out of here and jump to the next. It's a yellow-orange star, boom, reported. So the next place is civilized and occupied as well. Seems to be we're going this time. So yes, the reptile brain. This is the thing that we have to remember is that we are animals. It's one of the truths that I put forward in my last video, and we're a member of the group of animals called the vertebrates. So in fact, what we call the reptile brain could just as easily be called the fish brain or the amphibian brain, or even the bird brain, because those are the main groups of the vertebrates. We have the mammals, but they're kind of special. That's us. And we also have a mammal brain. So out of the 4 brains that we really have, there's a good quality star there. Out of the 4 brains that we have, the reptile brain is the most basic. It's the one that we've inherited from our ancestors and does all our basic functions. So if you think about the needs of living things, there's really just basically 3 needs for living things, and particularly for animals. And that is, the first one is to obtain energy. Without energy, you fall apart and die. And we call energy, we call food, we call energy food, basically. And generally, animals live in a very energy-poor environment. Let's see where we're heading this time. So animals live in a very energy-poor environment. We may as well do our little scan first before we leave here. Just pick up the data. Never know, it's all saleable somewhere. Ooh, a lot of bodies. That's a big system, isn't it? Let's have a look. Wow, look at these things. What is that? War? Does that mean war? Conflict zone, right? Yeah, wow. Where am I? I'm up here somewhere, am I? Don't know. Where are we? It's not telling us where we are. How far away is that? Don't know. Oh, current system. Yeah, current location. Where's our current location? Don't know. Anyway, let's get out of here. We'll go back to the. We'll pop back to our. Get out of the system map. How do we get out of the system map now? Back to there. System. Turn it off. Right. Let's get our next waypoint. It's straight ahead of us. Good job. Okay, so we'll fly off to this next place, and so yeah. If you think about it, you got the five main groups in the vertebrates: the fish, the amphibians, the reptiles, the birds, and the mammals. The mammal brain is what we are. We are the mammals, and we get a particular kind of brain that comes with being a mammal. And we'll talk about that in another video in the future. But for the moment, we're talking about the reptile brain, because the reptile brain affects how we behave in a number of ways. A lot of what it does is basically under the hood. It's the black box of our bodies, you know, that runs all the systems, what we call homeostasis. It runs all of our body systems so that we can, you know, keep our heart going at the right rate, keep our water balance correct, keep our salt balance correct. Not much in this place. Two stellar bodies this time. Let's have a look at the system. And just 2 stars. There you go. Not much to go write home about there. Right. So and then so it does all those things, and then we were talking about our basic needs of living things. So you've got your basic need of energy, and our reptile brain is very involved in the obtaining of energy, or at least telling us when our body needs it. The reptile brain will have a lot of instincts involved in it and drives for safety, which is the second of the 3 main needs of a living thing. And the third main need of a living thing is to find a mate, and the reptile brain has a little bit to do with that, but in fact the mammal brain is really what's going on there, and we're going to talk about that in a future video. So the reptile brain is involved in keeping our body stable, what we call homeostasis, and is also responsible for some drives. Now, these drives do affect our behavior. Have you ever heard of anybody being hangry when they're hungry and angry? So a lot of our basic emotions, or certainly our very acute emotions like anger and pleasure and that kind of stuff, are very linked into the reptile brain, because we feel happy when we have lots of energy, when we've managed to take a lot of energy. In fact, we'll probably feel sleepy as a result of that. So the reptile brain is also involved in sleep and tiredness. We don't really understand sleep. We don't understand why people have it. But so the reptile brain is involved in that. We've just got to keep an eye on the fuel here. Make sure we refuel when we can. There's an old saying in Elite Dangerous, always be fueling or going to kill myself. That acronym, always be fueling or going to kill myself, lists the stars that you could refuel at in terms of their class. But nowadays it just tells you which stars are refueling star. And in fact, the route planner now puts you past a whole lot of stars that are fuelable. And in fact, it avoids stars that are dangerous. So if we want to see dangerous stars, we may have to look outside the route planner and pick them individually off the star map. But anyway, we're going to head for... we did the D-scan here, didn't we? Just two bodies, wasn't it? So that's right, yep. So we need to get up here. We're going to hit the FSD, and we're going to head for Ross 812. It's the next star in our destination. So, yes. So our reptile brain's involved in quite a lot of our emotions, and our emotions drive us. When we're hungry, we want to find food. When we're feeling at risk, we feel fear. We have our fight or flight response. These things are part of our reptile brain, and this kind of stuff is about keeping us safe. So we're really interested in safety. And in terms of mating, we'll talk about that when we talk about the mammalian brain. So all of these drives, it's really important to understand that we are driven by our brain, and a lot of the emotions and a lot of the ways we think with our conscious brain, we think we're in charge, but really we're being pushed from behind by these different kind of needs that we have, these different drives that are part of the the kind of primitive brains that we have. We've got the primitive brain of the reptile. We've got the more advanced brain of the mammal. But again, it gives us a lot of drives that we have to deal with. And well, this one's a bit empty, but oh, there's bases. You see the moons over here have bases in them. So yeah, we're not going to go there. Okay, so this is all discovered. Democracy, government democracy. So let's get out of the system up. Let's head for our next destination. Right. Got to just watch out for the fuel. Fueling takes quite a while. I might do that off video because it is kind of boring. Let's head for LHS 435. So yes. And remember, our four brains are the reptile brain, the mammal brain, the conscious brain, that's what we think with, and our subconscious brain, which is really where all our intelligence is, and in fact basically controls everything that we do. But we'll talk about those in another video. So what I wanted to do was talk about hunger as a good example of how the reptile brain causes us some major issues, and in fact can cause us to suffer from to make some very bad decisions in a lot of ways, because I want to talk about hunger. Have you ever been hungry? Because the thing that you call hunger is probably not hunger. And you'll say, well, I was hungry and I wanted to eat something. And of course, you're right in a lot of ways. This is your reptile brain telling you that it wants to eat. But it's with what we experience as hunger in the modern world, and I hope that there are very, very few people listening to this video. I'm sure there are some out there listening to this video suffer from real hunger, because you're not really hungry until you haven't eaten for a week, right? That's hunger. When you have had your breakfast, or you've just been to the McDonald's restaurant, and you're walking out the door and you suddenly feel a pang of hunger, that is not hunger. And it happens all the time. You'll just think about it the next time you go to McDonald's. You have a burger, and just as you're walking out the door, you suddenly get a pang of hunger, because it's not hunger. What your reptile brain has realized is that you have discovered a source of energy, and what it wants you to do is it wants you to go back and keep eating that source of energy. And the reason is this: as I said, animals live in an energy poor environment. Plants get all the energy from the sun. They're fine as long as they can reach sunlight, but we have to fight for it. We have to either eat all day if you're a plant eater, and then digest the really hard to digest cellulose, or you have to catch your food by expending energy and going around and catching it. And animals have come up with lots of different ways of getting hold of that food. But the problem is that it's all an energy balance system. And what we find is that the only one star here. What we find is that the animals live in essentially an energy poor environment. Everybody's trying to hold on to their energy. You don't want somebody to eat you, do you? And that's what all animals are doing. They've got their energy, they've got their food, and they want to hang on to it. At the same time, they want to escape danger and not become food for something else. And so quite often what they do is you get your food and then you go and sit in your shelter until you need food again. So, and of course, what you need food is for two things: to keep growing and living, and of course to reproduce, to produce eggs and to produce offspring and things like that. But that's what happens when you live in an energy poor environment. You're always driven to go and find food, and the more energy rich the food is, if you find a particularly rich source of food, energy, a particularly rich source of energy, then your reptile brain drives you off to go and eat as much of that as you possibly can. It'll even make you sick, trying to make you eat it all until there's none left. And the reason for that is that situation is in the natural world, and probably in the world when we were hunters and gatherers, extremely rare. It's almost impossible to find a source of energy that was that rich. And of course, if you did find one, your reptile brain made sure you stayed around. by giving you those pangs of hunger to make sure you go back and eat that food and not leave any of it for anybody else. And that's hunger. That's what we call hunger, but it's not actually hunger. What it is it's energy deprivation. And a rich source of energy, of course, is generally going to be sugar of some kind. Either a lot of simple carbohydrate like starch, or it's going to be just pure sugar such as glucose or sucrose or whatever. But what your reptile brain is trying to do is trying to make you eat all this stuff and eat it all the time. And so when you feel hungry, what your reptile brain is doing is telling you is there's a source of really high energy food around. And the reason it knows there's a source of high energy food around is because you've just eaten some. So when you get that pang of hunger as you're leaving McDonald's, the reason is you have just told your reptile brain, by eating an energy-rich burger, you've just told your reptile brain that you are in an environment where there is a load of energy. And the reptile brain wants you to stay there. And so just as you're leaving, you get the pang of hunger to make you go back. And that's hunger. And the reason we know this is because if you take, if you use a diet, take yourself onto a diet that doesn't have any high energy food, doesn't have any starch, doesn't have any sugar. Some people might have called this the Atkins diet in the old days. But you go to a carbohydrate low diet and you will find that your body does not experience that feeling of hunger anymore. Once you go onto that diet for a while, your reptile brain's going to fight like crazy. It wants you to eat sugar because it's been so used to it. And of course, sugar's in everything. You eat bread, you got potatoes, rice, pasta, all of this is pure energy. It's what we call empty calories. And of course, your reptile brain is trying to drive you to eat this stuff all the time. When you get it out of your diet, the reptile brain forgets that it's there eventually, and will eventually stop giving you those pangs of what we call hunger, and you won't feel them. And as long as you keep your energy up at reasonable levels using just a diet of complex carbohydrates and protein and fat, which none of these things are bad for you. In fact, you need them. You need fat, you need protein. You also need energy, but fat, protein, and complex carbohydrates can all be converted into energy. You don't need to eat sugar. You don't need to eat pure sugar. Pure sugar does your reptile brain's brain in, and it causes it to go crazy trying to get you back to that source of food. So there you go. If you want to go on a diet and you want to get rid of those pangs of hunger that make you want to go back and eat more food, and many people want to do this for various reasons, then what you need to do is get sugar out of your diet. Simple starches, simple carbohydrates like starch. I don't know if we get glycogen in a lot of things, but and just go for food that has complex carbohydrates. You've got to keep your vitamins up. But yeah, so what I'm trying to point out here is that the reptile brain can make us do some things that are really very bad for us. Because the reptile brain has lived in an environment of low energy, it evolved in a low energy environment. It doesn't understand the idea that reptile brain is so primitive. It doesn't understand that we have invented agriculture and we now live in an energy rich environment. And so what you have to do consciously is try and manage that situation, because the reptile brain is not going to play ball. As soon as it sniffs a source of high energy, it's going to want to make you go and get it. So there you go. So I hope that's a useful piece of information to everybody. And I hope it exemplifies to everyone exactly what the reptile brain can do to us. And of course, when we get this hangry feeling, it can make us behave. So it's a very primitive brain. It doesn't really seem to have much to do with our conscious brain, but in fact it can, through emotions and through feelings, feelings of thirst, feelings of hunger, feelings of fear, feelings of anger, the fight or flight response. All of those feelings come from the reptile brain, and because those feelings are so strong, the reptile brain can make us behave in ways that are maybe not healthy for us, particularly in a civilized safe, energy-rich environment that we have in modern civilization. Now, I was talking about hunger. There are going to be people in the world who are actually hungry. They don't get enough food to eat. They don't get enough energy on a daily basis to grow properly. And really, with so much energy in, say, the West that is all doing us so much harm, wouldn't it be great if we could ship some of that food down to those people who are starving? But the problem is that it's the energy. Most of the food in our environment is energy, and energy isn't really what people need to grow. You need energy to keep your body working, and we'll talk about diet in a whole other video. But basically, that's the end of this story. Really, the reptile brain, its job is to keep you functioning and keep you safe, and to drive you to seek out as much energy as you can possibly get hold of. And in our energy-rich environment,
system scan complete.
You need to fight against it. It's working against you. It's doing you harm, your reptile brain. And the sooner everybody realizes this and get control over it, the healthier a lot of us are going to be. This is what we call the obesity crisis, and it's not trivial. It's a major, major health crisis. And we talk about, I mean, one of the biggest issues, I think, in our world is this whole business of people's sensitivities. I mean, I believe people should be responsible for their own sensitivities and not, force others to have to deal with them. But anyway, people are of the sensitivities, and you might think that, well, maybe I'm, fat shaming. This word comes up all the time. I'm not. I'm trying to help people get healthy, and I'm trying to suggest things that are going to make you a bit healthier. If you realize that you're driven back to the sugar source by that feeling of hunger, then I've done my job in this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, give it a like. If you want to hear more of my thinking and how we can improve the world, there's a whole lot more coming. I've got plenty to say. And the bottom line is this journey through space is just background, something to look at while we're talking. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.